right. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Crow. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going live on Facebook. Three questions for you. Simple questions. Okay. What is your name? Where were you born? What is your life purpose? Tell us, please. Tell Facebook land.
My name's Leon Rainbow. I was born in San Jose, California, or Santa Clara County, and I guess my life purpose really is to create art and to continue to grow.
Love that, man. Yeah, and we're surrounded by your beautiful art.
Yeah.
I'm currently visiting him in Trenton, New Jersey, so I have the blessing to be here with Leon, one of my good friends. So the whole thing about this is I'm going around talking to different people, different walks of life, about if they, for one, what was their life upbringing, and two, if they have any suggestions, ideas, wisdom for us of how to bridge the gap between youth and adults.
Oh, okay.
So would you mind telling us a little bit about your upbringing? Was it like, did you have parents that propelled you, or did you have pushback? How was that for you growing up?
I guess, I had an interesting upbringing, I had a mother that was very supportive and still is to this day. And I had a stepfather that was, I didn't know he wasn't my real dad till I was 13, but he wasn't really that supportive. He in some ways, he did propel me to excel, but he kind of had a negative way about doing it, so it wasn't, it was kind of, it was difficult, for sometimes, and I feel like, but I always had my mom to tell me, like, oh, you could do whatever you want, you can, it sounds stupid, but, just that way of thinking has kind of let me know, even through whatever I've been through in my life, that no matter what, that, I could still do what that we all have choices, but that we really have to we could do, we can really do whatever we want, but we just have to make the effort to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's almost like you're saying it's ingrained in you at a very young age, right? So now it kind of sounds a little bit silly, but when we're that young, when we're little kids, that means the world to us, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know with my kids, that's what we just give them, those positive affirmations, and we just give them a lot of light like that. But I know when they get older, they're gonna question, like, that was kind of a little bit silly, but similar to you. But in the end, it has really helped me, right?
Right. I feel like, when you're a kid and people are like, oh, well, you could be an astronaut, or you could be the president, and all that kind of stuff. Or, as kids, we have all these grandiose goals and things, but it was like crazy because I always wanted to be an artist, and I always wanted to do what I do now, even as a kid, especially like once I started seeing people do graffiti, I always wanted to do that, from when I first seen the movies, Break-In and Star Wars, and, like all the Beach Street and stuff, like, I wanted to do that, but, I lived in California. We didn't have trains where I lived, you know what I mean? At least that I knew of, but it was like, oh man, it was interesting, to be living here in New Jersey for the last 20 years, or 20 plus, more than that now, but I've been living in Trenton for almost 20 years. And just like, since we're so close to New York and just the way that the scene is, I've met a lot of those people, that, that I've idolized as a kid, you know what I mean? That were in some of the movies and the books and stuff.
That's what's up.
Some were awesome and some were a little bit disappointing as an adult, but at the same time, I guess, they were people, and when you're watching stuff as a kid on TV, and these larger than life figures and stuff, it's like, just like any kind of celebrity, in person, they might not be how they are on TV or something, because they might be basically playing a role, or, that's how they really are, but, it's not as endearing in person.
Right. Well, yeah, they gotta act.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So you were in San Jose, and then what brought you to Trenton then?
Okay, so basically, I lived in California in San Jose. I went there my freshman.
Uh-huh.
I went there 8th grade, freshman, sophomore. And then after my sophomore year, I moved back out here to New Jersey, to North Jersey. Originally, my stepfather had moved us out here, and then, when I was 13, my stepfather moved me out here, moved our whole family from... for a while we lived in like Salinas, Watsonville, that area. Okay. And then my stepfather moved us to New Jersey to be closer to his family, and so I was there like maybe 5th and 6th grade, like that 7th grade, and then around 7th, 8th grade, my mother and my stepfather divorced. Okay. So, and it got a little bit ugly, and then so my mother sent me back to San Jose, and I lived with my grandparents and my uncles and aunts and stuff. We had a lot of family out there, and that's really when I started to, do tagging and stuff, and, get involved with doing graffiti. I was somewhat rebelling, but at the same time, it was something that I was always interested in, and, I met some of the people that were, like I was starting to be down with this crew, Just Bust Funk, JBF. That's like, from what I heard, they had like a resurgence, and they're still out there. But, so basically, so I was out there until like, from the late 80s until like 92. And that's when I started tagging and stuff like that. I did get in trouble and stuff. And then like...
You got busted a couple of times or what?
I just basically just getting brought home and stuff, and, got suspended from school for stealing, and, just stuff at the time that I didn't really, there was a lot going on with me, and I was somewhat acting out, and I was just, in some ways I was doing well, and other ways I wasn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
life.
Right, it was just life, right, exactly. When I came back to New Jersey to visit my mom for the summer, she was like, "You're not going back to California." I'm like, "What? How you going to stop me?" And then she just ripped up my plane ticket in front of me, and I was like, then that's when it set in, like, you're not really going back to California, you know what I'm saying? And, from there, since then, I've been in New Jersey, and that was in 1992 was the last year I was out there. It was 92. So then from 94, I lived in North Jersey in a small town called Wanacue and Ringwood, which they're small towns. They're like north of Patterson. So it's like suburban area, suburban, almost rural, but suburban. And, I basically, from there, I went to school in Philadelphia for a while, 6 months or a year, at the Art Institute in 96. And then I moved to Trenton in 1997. So I've been in Trenton since 1997. And I started doing my first artwork here in 1999. So I've been doing murals in this city for, I guess, almost 20 years, right? That's 20 years, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm bad with math. And
right,
that's one of my things. Well, but yeah, sounds about right.
It's 2018, 97. Yeah, it's 19 years, something like that. So I've been creating in this city, and then I went to Mercer County Community College. In 2003, I met Pose, and then I met Sue and Bass and all of the affiliate artists, and I really learned a lot from them. And I just kept building and creating and learning and applying, you know what I mean? And that's where I'm at now, is just like continually trying to learn and create and apply, and that just can keep completing that cycle, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And but is this your full-time thing? Like you're an artist full-time? Or do you have other
Well, everything that I do is creative, you know what I mean? So I do web design. I work for a small company called Enforce Communications in Princeton. And, that's basically what would be considered my day job. And then, so I do a lot of the design part there. And then from all, and then so I do design there, and then I do a lot of fine art, murals, traditional graffiti, and just walls painting, traveling and painting, workshops, stuff like that. So I do a lot of different types of things. I organize the Jersey Fresh Jam every year in August, and different art shows and stuff also. This year for Jersey Fresh Jam, we're going to be organizing a month-long exhibit at Artworks that's going to be focused on the American train culture as far as graffiti, subways and freights, stuff like that.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So you really are doing what you love to do since you were a little kid. It seems like that's what's up, man. Okay. Based on what I see, you're always on Facebook, Instagram.
Right.
I could have sworn you did this full time, man. Like I wouldn't if you were to tell me, I work like a 9 to 5, an example. I wouldn't believe you because you're always so busy, man. How do you do it? How do you keep up the energy to be grinding like all the time?
A lot. It's just a lot of I just feed off of other people. I see like other people doing things, and I just try to manage my time the best that I can. And try to stay focused in the moment. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's one of the hardest things for me. But it's like as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like right now, I'm hanging out with you doing this video. That I'm not thinking about the work stuff that I got to do or the murals that I got to do later, or try to stay focused on what I'm doing at that moment. If I'm at my job, I try to stay focused as much as possible on, doing the web design and stuff like that. So, luckily, with the internet and stuff, my job is somewhat flexible, so that helps. I can work from home occasionally, and I could really work from wherever as long as I have an internet connection and program.
And you get her done?
Yeah. So, I think like with young people today, I feel like it's positive and negative, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I feel like one thing that I don't like, one thing where it's like I feel like I've been on the technology thing longer than most people that are now, like I had my own website in 2001 because I was studying web design, and I got it kind of in the game early. My early websites sucked, but at the same time, it's
you
like,
had one.
I had one, and I developed, my sites developed as my skills. So every few years I'll do a different version. It'll be better than the last, and it's always just trying to figure out how to change the way that the content is and stuff. So, but I feel like with the technology the way that it is, when I started about it, I was really in, like I had the, what was the one that the T-Mobile, the Sidekick? That was like the first one.
I wanted one of those so bad, man.
The one that slid. Yeah, and then I had the Blackberries and stuff like that before the iPhone came out. That's when the iPhone. I knew once the iPhone came out that things were gonna change. But what I always thought of was like, if I have this phone and I'm out painting somewhere and an important email comes, I could answer the email. Or if I need to, if I see something that needs to be done for my web design job, I could stop, find a wireless connection or something and do what I have to do if it was like an emergency, and I feel like that allows me more freedom to move about. The technology allows me more freedom to move about, and then also I never pictured the social media aspect of it, but starting with MySpace, that MySpace, then Facebook, then Instagram,
right?
That it allows you to connect to a larger audience. I feel like, in 20, 30 years ago, they didn't have this connectability to different people because you never know. You could be painting something in your backyard and somebody in China could be watching it, or Microsoft could see one of your videos. You know what I mean? So you never know how the interconnectivity is going to thing. But I feel like I'm working on a piece right now that's kind of about this, but I feel like right now the youth of today are coming from a different standpoint, where the technology is becoming such a crutch. You know, in some ways, I feel like they're light years ahead of where I was when I was younger. Right. I mean, my, 3-year-old nephew can start and use a tablet. Yeah. You know what I mean? Same. Turn on the games, go to YouTube, do all that, just intuitively. But at the same time, I feel like I see the teenagers and stuff where they don't go outside at all. They play video games. They do. I feel like. And then, they don't really have it the same kind of, they don't have that grind a lot of times, I'm finding, like not people, I'm talking from like my personal experiences with some of the youth that I engage with, either in programs or, through family.
Because you also teach too. You also do workshops.
Absolutely. Yeah, do workshops. I haven't done after school in a while, but last year I did a after school workshop at, Hedgepeth Williams School, and we did murals and stuff. But I feel like, whereas, maybe I could have been like that, but I had graffiti and art, so I'm out doing stuff, and I feel like it's great for that. Like, if you're on the go, like we're in D.C., and we're in D.C., we want to, show people what we're doing, meet different people, connect with different people. It's great for that. But, if you're just like, and I feel like the information is so easily accessible. Everything is so accessible now. It's to where, but sometimes that's a gift and a curse. Because when I was a kid, if you wanted to see pictures of graffiti, there was the Source magazine, the one page that Chino used to do. Yeah. Right, and then there was. You could go, there was like maybe 5 or, there was like 10 videos out that you could probably find. But if you wanted to go, you had to go out and find it.
It was trading photos.
Right.
It was trading photos.
Trade photos, go out and walk tracks and stuff. Find, go around your neighborhood and, take pictures or look at things. I feel like a lot of that, was up into like, I guess the early 2000s, but it was just like, I feel like a lot of that now, everything is so instantaneous, but I feel like in some ways, like I said, in some ways it's positive, in some ways it's negative. Now you have such a bigger audience and, people are interconnecting, people are taking pictures of your, trains that you painted that are in, California, and you're getting them while they're almost still in the yard sometimes, you know what I mean? Like almost instantly. So that's awesome in some ways. But then on the other ways, it's just like so easy that when people are coming up, it's just like they don't know what it, what we went through or the efforts that we went through to do certain things, And I feel like that's where, I feel like with young people, like some of them, like I have, I feel like if they're interested and you could get them to buy in, it's like, that's what I feel like you got to try to get them to really be interested in something, but I'm not sure exactly how that is, but a lot of times, that's what I feel like with kids, they gotta, with the youth, you really gotta try, I don't know what it is, but it's just like, oh, like a lot of them are just like, oh, I'm bored, I'm so bored.
Yeah.
Dude, or like, or just like looking for attention on the internet and stuff like that. I'm just like, dude, just do your thing, just grind, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I feel like that's one of the things that maybe it was like that when I was coming up too, but I just wasn't like that, I guess. I've always had this drive to whatever I was doing, whether it was good, bad, or different, I always had a certain grind about it, and I feel like that's how, if you really want to do some things in this country, it's like, because there's always going to be better artists than me, always.
Right.
There's always, there's always people above you, and there's always people that are on your level, and there's people that might not have the same skill set as you,
Right.
But at the same time, where I always try to set myself apart is to try to grind, and hustle, just keep everything moving, and just work harder, because I feel like that hustle can beat talent a lot of times, if the talent, but there's people that's where, but if you have a lot of talent and you have a lot of grind, then you're golden. But it's like there's not a lot of people built like that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the other thing is I noticed maybe, was it a year and a half ago, that I noticed you started changing your course in your health. Right, because you used to be bigger, and now you're like getting muscular. Like what made you make that transformation? Because let me interrupt real quick, because a lot of people have that mentality like, yo, I'm gonna grind and put my talent to work, but they don't do the self-care. They're not mindful of what they're eating. They're not mindful to take care of themselves. But you're doing the grind, you're sharing your talent, and then you also then decided like, yo, it's time to transform my body so it could be benefit to me, right?
Well, I guess what it was fear. You know what I'm saying?
Elaborate.
Fear is a great motivator. You know what I mean?
What happened?
So what happened was I knew I was heavy, but I was active. You know what I mean? I moved around. I did a lot of stuff. Like you said, I still grinded. I'd be out painting, doing a lot of stuff, but I just ate how I wanted. You know what I mean? So I found out that I had to get 2 surgeries on my ankles, and each surgery was going to be, I was going to not be able to put pressure on my foot for 6 weeks. So I knew I wasn't going to be active.
You weren't going to be able to grind as you're used to grinding.
So I knew, like, if I'm active and I'm heavy and I'm gaining weight, or if I'm staying the same weight, but I'm still heavy, I knew in my mind, like, oh, shit, I got to do something, or I'm going to just go out of control. I'm going to go heavy. So I was able to find like an eating program, work with a health coach and stuff. And, I really just was able to ask for help at the right time, and like I said, it was fear to motivate me. And then once, the weight started coming off and I started being able to exercise more, with the, do the physical therapy and stuff, like that's where I kind of have been able to, start to I'm just really starting on this journey of health. It's probably only been about a year or 2.
Yeah, but it's been like the transformation has been real, man. Like
and I feel like, that's one of the things, like, for some reason, like, I believe that people can change, but it's like sometimes that's the thing. It takes drastic measures sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like one of those things. Like a lot of people, you see people get stuck in a rut. And I've been in that rut. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you need help. You know what I mean? But the first part is you have to admit that you need help. You know what I'm saying? And then try to reach out and find the help. You know what I mean? And then but you have to do. You have to really make up your mind that you're ready. And just be that way. And you have to have commitment. But you have to be able to know that you can't do it on your own. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of things, that's bigger than me that, but I have like a strong support network and things. And that's what I've learned is like, just like with art, when I started learning from Pose and Sue and those guys, I knew that they were better than me and they had skills that I wanted to learn. And I just had to be committed to learn them from when they were ready to give them to me. You know what I'm saying? And I had to, whatever it took, if I had to go buff their walls, if I had, whatever it took.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of that mentoring somewhat is starting to go by the wayside, like I learned, it's like even when I was tagging as a kid, there were certain styles that were in our neighborhood and somebody showed me and then, I would learn them and that kind of thing was passed down. Whereas now with the internet and stuff, people are learning styles that are all over the place. You know what I mean?
Well, that's my question to you. Is that do you feel that there's a lack of mentors and role models, or is it the youth that's not really going out there asking for mentoring anymore, and they're just getting it off the internet, or is it a mix?
I would probably say it would be a mix. I feel like, I feel like somewheres along the line, some of the mentoring kind of fell off. So, and then the people that have been mentoring that are getting older, you know, like, I feel like I have to have somebody under me to train somebody under them, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the younger generation, that's what I want to try to do, is to try to teach them to pass it on to the next, you know, like I feel like it's almost like generations, you know,
right.
Like not necessarily like generations like your dad, your uncle, your grandfather, like that, but just in like, you know, like me and Casso are in a generation of Trenton artists, you know, and then like say maybe like Wills and Roy, Billy Brown, they're in another generation,
right?
And then the younger people that are coming up now, like Bayron and stuff like that, are in another generation. So I feel like you have to show the generation that comes after you, because maybe somebody that's closer in age could better equip to reach somebody that's younger, you know, like say like somebody from like a generation behind me could meet are more apt to meet the generation that's behind them, because they have more things in common per se. You know, like some of the people now, like we go back and forth with like how hip hop is, you know what I mean? Like I'm like 90s hip hop, you know what I'm saying? That's it, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like maybe somebody in that's 2000s hip hop could more understand the hip hop of 2018 than maybe somebody from the 90s, because I'm just like, oh, that shit's whack, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, there's some stuff I like, but you know, most of this, but it's still not like, I just don't vibe with it like that, you know. But
it's different.
But you know, I feel like you can kind of mentor people, but you kind of have to meet people in the middle. You know, you have to find some type of common ground, you know. But I feel like, on the other hand, the youth have to be willing today to want to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that's one thing that you can't give somebody a desire. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know when you first started, you wanted to do full-scale murals. Right. And then you went and learned from Marca, right? A lot, or no?
I think we were more.
Or you guys were more on your own thing.
On our own thing, for sure. I mean, not to take away from Marca, but we did. But we were on this. What Work and I were doing at that time. Work, another amazing artist, by the way, a good friend of ours. We just grew up together, so the whole thing was to learn off of each other through a competitive way.
Okay.
And then later we met Marca.
Right. Okay.
And then it was just another catalyst to the group. By
But you guys were already established, kind of, by that time.
No, we're kids. We're kids, man. I mean, shoot, I'm not even established right now, right? Okay. So it's like, what I'm getting at is like, we just saw him at the same eye level. You know what I mean? Yeah. And we're like, yo, we're gonna learn from you, and I'm sure we can share some things with you. Right. Now, I think what I'm getting at is that like, we had this perspective of like, we're just open to learn. Right. Because we're so hungry to learn. Exactly. And Marca had certain things that he was doing that we learned from. You know what I'm saying? But then later, Marca introduces us to the COI crew in LA. Right. And then it was like, okay, so I guess in a sense, yeah, you know, absolutely. And that way, he introduces us to Pose 2. Right. So then it was like, I guess he was the one that opened the gates for us. Right. No doubt about that, you know? Right.
So, yeah, so I think, like, that's, I definitely agree with that, like, because in, like, around 2000, when we started Vicious Styles, our whole thing, like, me, Casso, Mech, Pro, like, all of the people in Vicious Styles, we had, like, a real competitive vibe, you know, like, we were competing within our own crew, you know, which is healthy, like how you're saying. You know, like, we had other people that we learned from, but it was like, oh, Kasu's going to be doing this. Oh, he's bringing heat. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to beat what he's doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like that's one of the great things about graffiti in some ways it's like that male ego thing, you know what I mean?
No doubt.
Absolutely, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it pushes you to be better, you know, like I always like, it's weird, you know, like if I know like how we went to an event, you know, like in DC, you know, and Pose, Ride 21, you know, all these heavy hitters were over there painting, you know, all people from DC and everything, and international, you know, we had Dema and different people. Like, it's just like, oh man, like these cats are gonna fucking rock. We gotta rock, you know what I'm saying?
Right, you gotta step up to the...
Yeah, like I feel like as a graffiti artist, and still to this day, like there's a lot of times, you know, like I'm gonna go into situations where I know I might not be able to burn Pose, but I'm at least gonna represent my name. You know what I'm saying?
For sure,
and that is crazy because that's so important to me. You know, to at least, you know, represent who I am and what I do. You know, no matter if it's, you know, no matter what. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's an important part of art. And you know, it's also important like to be able to take criticism if it's constructive. You know. Like and not to let people, like a lot of times I feel like people will big you up that might not be into what you're doing. Right. You know, and then it's just like, oh, you know, like that's one of the things like I feel like nowadays is so kind of where things get messed up is that there's a lot of people that just like, oh, that's awesome. And then but like back in the day when I came up, it was like, yo, your shit is whack. You know what I'm saying? Like people would never tell you, like people would like be honest with you, I feel like, but almost to a negative thing. You know what I'm saying? Which it was like tough how they said it. But it was
tough love.
Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah.
But sometimes like people, like nowadays I feel like people is just like, oh, that's so awesome, but it's really not that good. You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of mediocre stuff gets like, oh, you're that's cool, or that's your style. I'm not into all that. That's my style is whack shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like, you know, I don't know. I'm not big on that whole, like I feel like it's a movement of young people now, or maybe not young people, but younger people is like, oh, you know, certain parts is whack, but that's my style. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like that gets thrown around a lot, you know. But you know, I mean, it's just like certain things. Just like there has to be some type of consistency, and I feel like as an artist, what I always try to do is develop my personal style and try to have some kind of consistency throughout my whole piece, or throughout the whole wall, or throughout.
How do you use that mentality of art and how you see art into your real life? Like how do you use some of those techniques in real life? You know
like as far as like, okay, so like in real life, I just don't have like whack as my style, you know what I'm saying?
Well, it could be said about attitude. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe and I'm saying that because of me, like I started through art. That's how I learned. That's been my master teacher, is that through art and through my ego, through graffiti art, my ego was so blown up that I had to see it and confront it and be like, yo, I'm tripping. Right. So then, just as I don't want my style to be whack, I don't want my attitude to be whack.
Right. That's
you know what I'm saying?
It
makes you grow as a human being.
What? Yeah, I feel like...
That's why, let me say real quick, that's why art is healing. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of programs are going out there and using art as a vehicle to help people heal, because it's as I say, art replicates life, right? Right. So then it's like, if we understand that, let's use that.
Right. And I love that concept. You know, I feel like there's a place for art for art's sake.
For sure.
But to me, it should be somewhat separated. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, you know, like a kid's wall shouldn't be with the master's wall. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if you go to a concert, you don't go see Billy Joel and then have somebody's kid playing next to him. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I feel like
a time and a place for
everything. There's a time and place for everything, you know? Like, it's cool to do workshops and stuff, but then there's it's different.
Yeah.
But I feel like as far as like your attitude and stuff, I feel like everybody has their own journey and their own process. It's like, I work through things differently than some other people, but I work. You have to have people like I have people that I work with that. I don't do it on my own. You know what I mean? And
what made you act like? What propelled you to be able to ask? Because that's what I run into a lot. Even adults, not just youth, but adults have a hard time asking for help, man. So then they pent up all this anger, all this pain, and then they just spew it out on others.
Right.
What made you be like, I need help, man. I can't do this on my own. I need to go out and seek help in these aspects.
You have to be defeated.
You were at the bottom.
Yeah.
And now we're here. Okay, I'm going with Drake.
Oh, here you go. Stop. So, but yeah, I feel like to me, you have to hit a point where you're willing to basically surrender, where you're like, okay, I can't do this same process no more. You have to be like, okay, just like with my weight thing, it was like, oh, I can't do this no more. I need to change. Got it. Whatever it is.
Up to here, this is it.
Yeah, just like with people with smoking. I wish, I just did an anti-smoking campaign and I did a mural for them and stuff. And it's something that's close to my heart because, people dying from smoking more than anything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is crazy because, drugs is an epidemic right now. Alcohol has been like,
Yeah.
But cigarette smoking is the top killer of most people, you know what I mean? Like with that cancer and shit. But I feel like, you have to, I don't know, but it's weird now, like how everybody, this society nowadays is always trying to find an easier, softer way. You got the fucking vaping, but you're still addicted to nicotine.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's in that fucking vape shit either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, you never know. If you could use that to get to where you're not doing anything, but, sometimes I feel like we just drop one thing and pick up another, But I feel like, to me, I kind of can't do it like that. I have to just be like, oh, I'm done. That's
you got to go all the way down.
All the way and just be like, oh, I'm done. That's it. I can't do it no more.
Because I was going to say, like, what I'm saying through these conversations and just, the books that I've written and whatever I do is, like, what I'm saying is we don't need to go all the way down.
Right.
And what I mean by that is that, like, if we were to focus more on, like, self-love.
Right.
Self-awareness. Things that we're not being taught in schools or our parents just didn't teach us because they didn't know how, what have you. But if we tap into this other vehicle of self-awareness, then we can be like, oh shit, I'm not, you start really evaluating yourself and be like, you know what, I'm eating pretty crappy. Or you know what, I shouldn't be drinking, man, because when I drink, I'm out of control. But we're being honest with ourselves.
Well, you know what, though? I don't feel that shit works for most people.
Why?
Because you know what it is this. Like, we just don't have the wisdom. You know what I mean? Like knowledge is like Crow. I see Crow drinking and eating fucked up. And that's, I don't want to do that. But wisdom is being like, oh, I see him doing that, and just being like, oh, maybe that's not a good idea for me to try that, or start to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like being able to learn from other people doesn't seem like it's our strong point, And but I feel like maybe you can, but you really have to be open to it.
Well, and I agree, and that's why I'm saying is like that comes back to bridging the gap with
like
youth
how
and
you
adults.
change that.
Well, we change that within ourselves when we're ready to commit, because it is a commitment. It's a daily thing.
Yeah, I mean,
let me finish real quick.
ahead.
Sorry, but then when we're raising our children, then we're able to give them that. Right. Hey, you can do anything. Right. You got this. And then when they're out on their own, we will figure it out. We got the thick skin. We got the thick armor on. We got the impenetrable mentality. Like, we're ready.
I feel like the one thing is it's always going to be easier to deal with youth the younger.
Oh, of course.
The younger they are.
Of course. Of course.
Because a lot of times once you get set in your ways, it's hard to.
You're cooked.
It's hard to. It's hard. It's a problem. You know, if you could work with youth before, that's why a lot of people, you know, it's like the kids are the future in that aspect. You know, where they're a sponge. You know, you can really have them do a lot of positive things and be real positive. You know, and not necessarily get into the issues and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It depends on how you're raised. You know.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
a lot of times, what do you do when they're not raised like that? You know what I'm saying? That's where the issues is. But like, if, you know, because like for instance, you know, I didn't know how to be a man. You know what I'm saying? I had a lot of people teach me a lot of things, and just from watching the way that things that other people did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I never, you know, I didn't know none of that stuff. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know about, you know, just being responsible or doing, you know, it's just like I could only see what was right in front of me, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I feel like, yeah, I mean, if we could get kids to be positive, you know, it's a lot easier than, you know, yeah, than to try to deal with it as an adult.
On the other end, I think is that if adults had a really traumatic experience growing
Right.
up, or a lot of pushback from whoever took care of them,
Right.
then consider then like learning from that.
Right.
Similar to what, you know, your experience. Like, you know what, I had a tough childhood, but it's made me the man I am today. Right? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's just not being stuck.
But you have to get to the point, you know, because
Absolutely.
And it takes a lot of work. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
On like
No
you're
doubt.
saying, like work on self. That
Little kitty.
basically, you know, that you know, you have to like try to move through and work through your issues. You know, everybody has different issues, and you know, I feel like everybody has their own issues. You know, but you have to figure out which ways work for you, and to try to get help and try to move past whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, whatever your issues are.
I also feel on the other spectrum, I also feel that like contrast, life is contrast, and it's not going anywhere. And I feel like there's this desire in me that was like, man, how beautiful would it be to have just this peaceful environment everywhere.
Right.
But the other part of me is like, we need contrast. We need, so that way we grow from that, right? So that's why I'm going around talking to different people and just learning their perspectives and sharing what, you know, what you people think, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like all the things that I've done in my past have definitely brought me to the point where I'm at today. You know, and everything, you know, you just have to make sure that, you know, you're not clouding, you know, all your stuff that you know, letting your past cloud you to and stop you from doing things in the future. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Yeah, because it's like, man, it's, you know, I mean, it's life. Dealing with life is the hardest thing we'll ever have to do. You know, just like you're saying, you know, just really a lot of it is emotions. You know, dealing with different emotions. You know, happy, sad. You know, and just being able to figure out how to move through them in a positive way. You know, when people pass, or relationships break up, or jobs go, or different projects. You know, a lot of things is what's weird with me is that the small things is what is the most difficult for me to deal with. So like, you know, somebody could die, or I could lose, you know, I don't know, I could lose a job or something like that, and it would be all right. But just like sometimes the day-to-day, you know, being stuck in traffic, or, you know, having an issue with a project that I'm working on.
Yeah, like with the people you're working with.
The people like certain things like those kind of like, if you look at things in from a larger standpoint, or the smaller things, but sometimes if you don't those little things can add up, or those little things could really, you know, kind of is what really frustrates me more than sometimes the bigger things. You know, it's like I feel like I'm less capable of dealing with those little small things on a daily basis can frustrate me to no end, you know.
I think that's a lot of us.
It's just life, you know?
I think that's a lot of us, where all these little things, if we're not aware that they're adding up, and then the big thing happens, some of us just then buckle at the knees and just can't get up for a while. You know what I'm saying? So
and I feel like everybody has their process. You know, everybody goes through mourning different. Everybody, you know, deals with life on a different manner. You know, it's just like, you know, I guess, you know, a lot of it to me is like trying to figure out different ways of expressing it. Art is very therapeutic to me. You know, just being out painting and, you know, being outside and just, you know, to me that's like my happy place, is just being on some desolate part of something, painting just with a couple friends and just enjoy. Like that's where I you know, that's where I want to be, or just like in a wall somewhere in just a random area, whatever, in different places. But, you know, I feel like that's where I'm most comfortable, you know. Whereas, like, you know, different things like, you know, maybe some of the fancier things that I get to do is less comfortable for me. You know, it's like that's one of the things, like I don't like to dress up unless I have to. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like to do all that anymore. You know?
I hear you.
And I feel like that's one of the things that's helpful to learn is to be humble, which is to be comfortable within yourself.
With who you are.
Yeah.
With who you are. Yeah.
Who you are, what you like, why you do the things you do, and you know, a lot of people might not experience those things or know exactly where they're coming from. But it's important to explore, you know, who you are and why, you know.
You know, a lot of the creative people I talk to, they all tell me the same thing. It's like, you know what? Through this vehicle of creativity, I'm in my zen. I'm in you know, I'm healing myself, or you know, in their words, right? And just about everybody's told me, is like, if everybody were to do this, if everybody were to be creative in their own way, it doesn't have to be painting or dancing, just creative in their own way. I think a lot of people would like be able to figure out and solve a lot of those little issues. You know what I mean? Because through that channel, you're able to, it gives you that clarity. Right. You know, so.
Yeah, and I feel like, it's just like, and a lot of it, you know, it's relieve stress. Yeah. You know, it's just like, and I feel like when you're kind of like, when you get in that zone, when you're just painting and things are just falling in, you know, the way that you kind of maybe have envisioned them, or maybe started to envision them, and then it kind of just builds from there. You know, to me that's important, where you have an idea. Like, I don't like to have my ideas all the way worked out, you know. I like to have room to be a little bit intuitive, you know. So it's like, oh, like this is the general idea, and I'm just gonna build from here and take these little pieces that I know and put them together into this larger thing, you know. Yeah. But and I feel like, you know, it's important to be able to create. I mean, at least for me, you know, it's helpful for me to be able to create on that and just be able to enjoy that process, you know.
Exactly what you said. Now, that's how I apply it to my life.
Right.
See, like, so I'll have a general idea. Like, when I travel, I have a general idea of, like, okay, I bought the ticket.
Right.
You know, this is more or less where I'm going to be at.
Right.
And then I go, and then intuitively, things start aligning. Right. And then I just align with other people that are on the same frequency. Right. So it goes back to that.
That's what I try to do also.
I use a lot of what I do with my own creativity and use it in life. You know what I'm saying? Right. Same thing when there's an issue in a painting. When a person comes with an issue with me, I try and assist in figuring it out. Right. You know what I mean? Or if that person is, let's say, attacking me, then same thing. It's like my creative aspect of how would I handle that situation? Right. And then I handle it intuitively at that moment. I trust that, see? So
you got to trust the process.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I gotta get on that plane soon.
All right, absolutely.
I do have it at the end of each episode where it's open to ask any questions to my spirit guide.
Okay.
I've talked to you about my spirit guide, and I'm very vocal about it. So, do you have any questions? Do you want to have another little discussion with my spirit guide, or should I get to that plane?
I'm not sure. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well,
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you.
I have Leon's Instagram handle, and follow him. He's doing amazing work. I know if you already are over here on Facebook, you're obviously following him on Facebook.
Yeah, so make sure you also follow Isaiah's Crow on Facebook.
Yeah, if you're into creativity, art, eating healthy food, you know what I mean? Like, please give me a follow. I love to connect with you all. All right, thank you.